I like to play in the dirt. How about you? Good afternoon. At least it's afternoon to me. I'm Janet. Glad to have you back. This is part 2 in our series. In part 1, we did the planting of our fall garden. And in part 2, we're going to start the seeds. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have gathered all of your supplies. For seed starting, you're going to need several things. You're going to need a tray that will hold water, no holes. You're going to need net cups if you're going to follow this method of seed starting using air-pruned cups like these net cups. You're going to need your seeds, obviously. You're going to need your marker because labeling is super important. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then you're going to need potting mix. For this, I have used Larry's mix before, but I don't have any mixed up right now. So I'm just using a pre-mixed potting soil. And what I'm using is Ocean Forest. I really like this potting soil because of everything that it has in it. I've used it before and I find that I get great success with it, even though it is a little bit pricey, which is why I only use it for my seed starts. So step 1, you're going to need to fill your net cups, and when you do so, in a new bag of potting mix, you'll be able to tell that the potting mix is a little damp, not overly saturated, but a little damp, and you want to just pack it down lightly. So let me get a few of those done and we'll talk about the next step. Okay, I've got a tray full of net cups here filled with my damp potting mix, and we are ready to move forward. Oh, no, wait a minute. I left out an important step. If your net cups and your trays are not sterilized, in other words, brand new, then you need to clean them. So, rewind. Are we having fun yet? We having fun yet? Alright, so what I'm doing, I've got hundreds of net cups soaking in this Clorox water. 1 part water to 9 parts Clorox. And because they were old and used net cups, I am washing them and scrubbing them with a toothbrush. Okay, we're going to start with an easy one, peas. Now actually they'll tell you in nearly every garden book that peas are something that you want to sow directly outdoors, which you can certainly do that. However, I'm going to seed start them to give them a little bit of an extra jump, and also because frankly, my buckets and everything aren't quite ready out there yet, so I'm going to start them indoors. And here's what we're going to do. Looking at the planting instructions, it says to plant them between 1/2 and 1 inch deep. So you want to use some kind of a tool. I usually use a pencil, but I couldn't find it, so this is just a little piece of a bamboo. And I'm going to poke a hole in my potting mix. I haven't added any water to the potting mix at this point. Some people like to go ahead and water their potting mix. I don't do it that way, but that's totally up to you. And also, most of the time I put 2 seeds per net cup to kind of ensure that I'm going to get at least 1 to germinate. But I don't have that many extra seeds in this packet, so I'm just going to go with 1 seed per net cup right now. And we just drop it in the hole. And now we're going to just take our hands and just cover up the pea hole, with the pea seed. Just the mix that's already on the top of your net cup. After that, we're going to give each one, go away bee, a very good watering that amounts to about 2.5 to 3 tablespoons. Before I completely finish watering this, I wanted to bring something up to you. This last little cup hasn't been watered yet. And what you want to do is feel the weight of the cup with just the dampened potting mix in it. That is the weight at which you're going to want to water your seedlings again. This will be the only time that I will top water these peas. The rest of the time, they will be watered from adding 1/4 inch of water to the bottom of the tray. And I'll know when to do that by lifting up on the net cup and feeling the weight of it versus how it feels now, which is pretty heavy. And the last thing that I do is sprinkle some cinnamon on the top of each net cup to help prevent damping off. Unfortunately, the conditions, required for seed germination also really create favorable conditions for damping off and the growth of fungus. And so the cinnamon, believe it or not, does help with preventing that. You've got a hot, humid, moist environment, so funguses are going to want to grow. The only time that I continue to top water any seed is a seed like lettuce, that you sow that so finely on the surface that it needs to stay moist. If lettuce seeds ever dry out, they won't germinate. So that is one kind of seed that I will continue to top water until it sprouts. And at the point of sprouting, that's when even lettuce is watered by adding 1/4 inch of water to the tray. Now, it's very important to label what you have. In this case, this whole tray is just this one kind. So I could probably get away with just adding 1 label for the whole tray. But when I go out to the garden and I'm getting ready to plant these, I'm going to be planting 5 buckets. So I know that I'm going to want at least 5 labels of these peas. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make 5 labels, just stick them in here randomly, and then at the time that it's time to plant in the garden, transplant them, I'll already have my labels done. That will be one less thing I have to do out there in the heat. Okay, I have all 5 labels that I need for this particular kind of pea. The next step is to have a plastic cover. Until these sprout, you want to kind of create a greenhouse effect. There are a couple of ways you can do that. The cheap way is to use saran wrap, although I will say it's a little hard to get this kind of tight with saran wrap over your labels, but it can be done. I have these plastic domes that I use and reuse until they absolutely fall apart. So have the dome on there, and now it's time to put the whole tray on a growing table that I have with a light. So I'll meet you in the laundry room. Here's my first setup in my laundry room. And that top grow light is a professional one that I ordered. But it was quite expensive. And when I needed so many more, I decided to create my own, which is very easy to do, using just a standard shop light and bulbs that have lumens that are about 2,900 lumens, and they work great. This is my second setup that I have in my small little office here. Not much room to work and walk around, but anyway, I used a series of PVC to connect 2 more shop lights, and used a 8-foot table or 6-foot table, I think that is, so it gives me more room. I have 2 more just like this for the basement if and when I have that many things started at the same time. This works just super, and you can raise and lower the lights as the plants grow, because you always want to keep the light 1 inch above your plants. So we'll see you back in a few days once my seeds are starting to germinate, and show you the next step. Bye, and have a good one.